Good morning and thank you for staying tuned to Souk News Television this fine Monday morning in the city of Lagos. Welcome to Market Insight. I am David Chiedu. On the program today, the spotlight is on Nigeria's gas potential vis-a-vis the recently signed Nigeria Equatorial Guinea gas pipeline agreement. We'll get into the conversation shortly proper, but first, we'll take a quick look at the NGX report for the previous trading week after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Market Insight. This morning, we're going to start with the NGX Trading Week summary for Friday, August 16, 2024. Now, at the end of last weekday of trading on the Nigerian Exchange Limited, a total of 348,952,726 shares in 7,677 deals corresponding to a market value of 7,464,902,951 naira 30 kobo were traded. Compared to the previous NGX trading day, that is Thursday, August 15, Friday's data showed a 29% improvement in volume, 112% improvement in turnover, and 6% improvement in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange sits at 55.1 trillion. In the aggregate, 108 NGX listed equities participated in trading, ending with 23 gainers and 21 losers. Owando led the gainers with 9.97% share price appreciation, closing at 35 naira 85 kobo per share, followed by RT Briscoe going up by 9.68% and Computer Warehouse Group going up 6.48%. On the losing side, Learn Africa came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.97% at 3 naira 52 kobo per share, followed by Cadbury Nigeria going down 9.95%. Nymeth International Pharma went down 9.17% and Secure Electronic Technology went down 8.89%. Guarantee Trust Holding recorded the highest volume of 90.9 million traded shares, followed by Owando going at 30.4 million, Japol Golden Ventures at 22.4 million, and Veritas Capital Assurance by 21.7 million. Now, regarding the performance of the NGX market indices, the benchmark NGX All-Share Index paired 0.05 points to close at 97,100.31, representing a one-week loss of 1.51%, a four-week loss of 3.42%, but an overall year-to-date gain of 29.86%. Other remarkable indices that performed were the NGX Top 30 Index, including the NGX Insurance Index, the NGX Banking Index, the NGX Oil and Gas Index, the NGX Main Board Index, and the NGX Premium Index. And that's the stock market report for last week. We'll get to the Nigeria Equatorial Guinea gas agreement conversation in a moment. On the conversation this morning, or rather on the program this morning, we're having the conversation regarding Nigeria's signing of a new agreement with Equatorial Guinea, an energy alliance, if you like, in a gas pipeline agreement. And a significant step towards bolstering regional cooperation and mutual development. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and Equatorial Guinea President Teodoro Mbasogo signed an agreement on the Gulf of Guinea pipeline project. Now, this particular project was formalized during President Bola Tinubu's recent official visit to Equatorial Guinea and also aims to enhance gas exploration and cooperation between the two countries. For many, it is aimed at unlocking new opportunities for gas exploration and generating employment, thus contributing to the economic growth of both nations. But for Nigeria, the benefits of these projects extend beyond mere economics. They also serve as a strategic tool for fostering deeper regional cooperation as well as integration. Now we discuss the impact and prospect for Nigeria's economy, energy security, multilateral relations, and sustainable development. This morning, we're joined by a legal advisor in the oil and gas sector with operations across the upstream, midstream, and downstream sectors of the industry in the country. We're talking about Ugochi Ihedigbo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Right. We're also being joined by a Geospatial Information Technology Specialist and Environmental Sustainability Scientist, Dr. Mahmoud Ibrahim Mahmoud. Dr. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on this program.
So we're going to start, first of all, with you, Dr. Mahmoud. By way of an overview, first of all, let's talk about this particular agreement. The agreement is supposed to cover various critical aspects, including legislative and regulatory measures for pipeline, its establishment and operations, the transit of natural gas, and ownership of, gas pipelines, as you were, alongside general principles governing the project. So, as I said, by way of an overview, what are your thoughts on this particular development and the scope of it therein?
Thank you very much for having me once again. And it's actually a very laudable and strategic step that has been taken by the president around this particular subject matter. So I'll start with drawing your attention to note that you will recall that Nigeria, from the hinterland down to Europe, has the AKK project that is going on from its main or from the Niger Delta. But then we also have the West African gas pipeline that goes across the coast. It's a coastal infrastructure that goes around to Morocco. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see that the Gulf of Guinea is left blank. And if you look at the geographic location of Equatorial Guinea, it's actually on the other direction. So it does really make sense to have an infrastructure that will provide all of these gamut of services that we have actually enlisted that is going towards Equatorial Guinea. That is also another very interesting market that Nigeria is being proactive and frontal to put the gas infrastructure in place. Keeping in mind that if you look at it in the bigger picture, within the context of the transition to gas as a strategic response to diversifying Nigeria's economy from oil specifically, you will see that the energy transition plan that Nigeria has in place already has categorically stated that Nigeria's transition fuel is going to be gas, and hence it's good to reflect on this on the basis of the scarcity that we have, and then looking at how best we can do this transition, which in the long run will provide some stability and sustainable energy infrastructure that will make Nigeria also tap into the gas market properly.
Now, where does it leave us, in economic terms, based on the current realities, both nationally and regionally?
Again, I will just continue from where I stopped, knowing fully well that if we transition from oil to natural gas, which is an abundant resource for Nigeria, Nigeria has actually been more now recategorized as a more gas country as opposed to the oil that Nigeria is being known for. And for decades, Nigeria has actually been flaring gas. And I can tell you that about 4.5 billion standard cubic feet of gas has actually been estimated to have been burned based on data. You can always find this data on the Nigerian gas flare tracker that was developed by the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. Now, to more like cast it properly, transitioning from oil to natural gas, it represents a strategic response to the challenge we are seeing in the context of fuel scarcity, and natural gas offers Nigeria a more stable and abundant, source of energy compared to oil, which is subject to usually subject to some volatility in the market and complex supply chain. So, in a nutshell, by focusing on natural gas, Nigeria aims to enhance its energy security, reduce its dependence on oil, and then also stabilize fuel supplies for both domestic and industrial use. And then, therefore, transitioning to gas well aligned with global trends, where many countries are currently investing in cleaner energy, more reliable energy sources, and it's a win-win for Nigeria if Nigeria is able to get this well sorted as planned, knowing fully well that there is an hinterland market that's going to Europe. There is also a market that leads all the way across all the West African countries down to North Africa, but then also the Gulf of Guinea aspect of this is well captured as a good strategic market for Nigeria.
I'm going to take you up on your remarks with regards to gas flaring. It's been a very, very huge issue for us, especially with regards to, the loss of revenue and also its environmental impact, as it were. But for some reason, we've seen the almost, continued or almost incessant this issue of gas flaring persists with very little or nothing by way of solutions to curb, this particular challenge, which has led to loss of revenue on a very, 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 huge scale. Can you speak to this issue?
Thank you once more more like this is my thought. This is home for me because knowing fully well that I have actually, in my capacity as an environmental scientist, I've actually been in charge of gas flare issues in the while I was with the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. Now, this is a digital tool that has actually tried to look at both an onshore and offshore of the Nigerian terrain within the oil and gas sector, and specifically this topic has been very, very obscure for Nigeria, since like about a couple of decades. And proactively, the agency have taken some very proactive steps in using ICT, digital technology, like you had, geoinformation technology, such as remote sensing, to look at these minutes for Nigeria. Now, like I earlier said, according to, looking at from 2012 to date, in the NOSDRA record, it says that Nigeria has flared about 4.5 billion standard cubic feet of gas. Now, in terms of the revenue, that is actually the value of this gas that has been flared is about 15.6 billion US dollars. And you know that there is actually a penalty that is actually attached to this. According to the NOSDRA record, it says about 8.9 billion is supposed to actually be gotten from, the penalties of violating what you have in the regulation from what BPR as it were used to have, but now NUPRC as we have currently. And also, as part of the benefits, if Nigeria were to actually utilize this gas that has actually been wasted, it's about 445 thousand gigawatts of energy that Nigeria is supposed to benefit from. Aside from the fact that it also, when you look at what the waste entails, is affecting the climate on one hand, but then the air quality and the people that are actually in the Niger Delta and Nigeria as a whole. So Nigeria has actually lost a lot with gas flaring, and this in tune also is linked to, if you look at it within the climate change context, you have the short-lived climate pollutants where you have CO2, and of course you also have methane emission. All these are menaces that need to be really avoided, and there is need for strategic approaches that need to be taken on board. But first of all, to have data that speak to what we are actually wasting, and then from there, the technologies that need to ensure that the utilization of this comes to fertility. So I will want to say that the initiative to sign this project for gas within the Gulf of Guinea with Equatorial Guinea it's also going to provide another form of utilization where all of the gas that is being flared is now gathered, collected, and then it's utilized rather than the waste that we see. So it's good that the government has made a very strong and taken a very strong decision to go in this direction. Then this will actually force the operators to make sure that all of the associated gas that is being wasted is entirely avoided. But then now the gas, natural gas exploration will now start for more economic benefits for Nigeria and the region as a whole.
Thank you very much. Let's come to you, Ms. Ihedigbo, if you can hear me. Mr. Ibrahim spoke about our transition, our energy transition, and its appurtenances. Also, again, while he was commenting, he mentioned one of the challenges, which I, of course, elaborated on, and then he gave more insights regarding. But with all of these, one connecting issue essentially could be, or is rather, systems, processes, regulations, and whatnot. So you are essentially a player in the legal aspect, with the legal aspect of the oil and gas sector. So the PIA, which is essentially supposed to put all of this, beg your pardon, into context and provide if you like, a framework for them to operate optimally to the benefit of Nigerians. So far, would you say that that has adequately captured the needs, especially with regards to what we're talking about now, the aspect we're looking at now, which is the oil and gas sector?
Good morning once again, and thank you for having me. Well, I note that before the advent of the PIA, the PA was. Can you hear me clearly, please?
You can.
Okay, great. So before the advent of the PIA was the governing legislation. However, when the PIA came into play, we have seen that the PIA is even more gas focused than it is oil focused. And this is understandable because due to energy transition, Nigeria is looking for ways to properly harness its gas reserves and then put favorable laws and legislation policies, regulations, and guidance. These are subsidiary laws to the PIA now in place to aid its gas development. Has the PIA done justice to gas? Technically, yes. Yes, there are diverse provisions on the PIA that focus solely on gas and how it can be enhanced and even, creating for the midstream, downstream processes. However, the implementation of the PIA has not exactly been at the pace we have expected it to grow at. I note that if the PIA is properly implemented at a considerable pace, this issue would be a walkover for Nigeria, and it would also help us develop and aid our economic growth.
When you talk about development, I mean, Mr. Ibrahim, or rather Dr. Ibrahim earlier spoke about some of our other agreements in the past, vis-a-vis that of Morocco. This happened in 2016, by the way. We entered an agreement with Morocco to construct a Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline to promote regional integration and also to bolster energy security across the continent. Of course, we know that this particular agreement is, going to be in phases over a 25-year period if I'm not getting my wires crossed. However, we see a lot of lofty ideas, or lofty projects rather, such as this, both the recent one and the previous ones we've had with other, regional, counterparts, as you were. And it's great, on paper, as you were. But in practical terms, in your view, that is, what does it mean for the local economy or the informal sector, as you were? If there were going to be measurement metrics, so to speak, what exactly would the impact look like in very, very practicable terms?
So first off, the Gulf of Guinea pipeline project would aid Nigeria's energy security. What do I mean? To provide reliable and affordable access to energy for Nigerians and even West Africa in general. And then this is because if Nigeria should properly harness its gas reserves, we all know that Nigeria has been has been stated to have the ninth largest gas reserve proven record. So if Nigeria should properly harness these gas reserves that it has, it would aid energy security. It would also boost our economic stability. How? This would just simply mean that people would have access to cheaper energy as opposed to fossil fuels that Nigeria had previously relied on. Also, another impact of this project would be it would help boost industrialization. What do I mean? Increased access to gas would mean that other energy intensive related projects or aspects in Nigeria, manufacturing, petrochemicals, would have access to gas that would aid the development of their sectors, right? This would in turn consequently now boost industrialization. We also note that this would create jobs, it will enhance job creation for Nigerians and even outsiders. Hopefully, Nigeria has a way to, manage this dicey topic, because more often than not, what usually occurs is when there are projects of this nature, typical large gas infrastructure projects, sometimes foreigners are prepared as or go-to employees, for projects such as this. But I believe there can be a balance, there can be a mix. Also, it would also aid in revenue generation for Nigeria. No doubt that we need forex in Nigeria, and then by the time we start exporting gas, it would in turn boost our revenue generation and help us diversify our economy, right? And export of whatever proceeds or revenue generated from the export of natural gas from Nigeria, in terms of implications, would also mean that we could apply those proceeds to other aspects of spheres in Nigeria. This could help us diversify our economy. And practically, and another practical integration would also mean, implication would mean regional integration. It is commendable that Nigeria is seeking or has sought to, establish ties with Gulf of Guinea. We note that this is not even new. Nigeria in previous times had history with the Gulf of Guinea, which have been good, give or take, in respect to trade and security and even cultural interests. This particular project will further deepen and strengthen the ties that Nigeria has with Gulf of Guinea. And if properly implemented, it would help position Nigeria as a global leader in the global energy market.
We're still talking about the Nigeria Equatorial Guinea gas agreement, and we still have our guests with us giving us their thoughts on the issues. Ms. Ugochi Ihedigbo is with us this morning, as well as Dr. Mahmoud Ibrahim M, giving us his thoughts as well. Now, Doctor, I'm going to come back to you. Let's talk more about some of the challenges that have impeded us from moving further or moving forward, especially when it comes to, the harnessing, if you like, of our gas potential in this part of the world. One of those issues, amongst the myriad of issues, is transportation or transit, and what has led to some of the issues, the transportation issues plaguing the gas sector are things like vandalism and the likes. So can you speak to this matter, with regards to how to mitigate this issue? Because I know that if it's supposed to go from one point to another point, the pipelines are subterranean and subterrestrial, beg your pardon. And, a lot of things can happen when we're not seeing these transit conduits, as it were. So can you speak to this?
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for still coming back to me around this topic. And yes, one of the major challenge that, even though I would like to, it's good to talk about benefits, but we know that we have some current challenges that Nigeria has been dealing with, and it's very, very peculiar with vandalization of infrastructure. It's very known to Nigeria, and within the context of oil, this has also been what has led to oil spills that you have all over Niger Delta. Now, within the gas and in the gas context now, this is something that we need to start thinking of now from a proactive point of view. Now, there are different ways of laying gas or pipeline infrastructure. But in this context, it's either subsurface or some at the surface. It would be nice for Nigeria to look at on the basis of the various host communities that this infrastructure will crisscross, to look at what is peculiar with these regions, and how best and what are the suitable approaches that it needs to adapt to be able to put this infrastructure in place. And if you just reflect a little on what the PIA says around host communities, particularly host communities where infrastructure will pass through, they have their own responsibilities. Now, should they meet up with securing, or playing a very proactive role in ensuring that infrastructure that is within their communities are well protected, then this is when they are entitled to some of the portions, or they have something earmarked for them as part of opportunities for host communities. So this kind of community engagement needs to be well, and stated and finalized, so that the potential benefits and the real benefits of the pipeline project, within the context of the Gulf of Guinea project, can actually be, harnessed properly, because this is a good initiative for Nigeria's energy strategy. And then the pipeline generally is supposed to significantly enhance the country's ability to transport natural gas efficiently from production sites to key consumption areas, both within and across Nigeria. So for within Nigeria, there's need for that conversation to happen with host communities around how they should actually protect and take care of the infrastructure that passes through their environment, knowing fully well that when this infrastructure, this pipeline comes on board, it will reduce gas flaring, which is a major environmental concern, but then it will also facilitate the capture and utilization of natural gas that will otherwise be wasted, which is the current challenge that we have now. And this is not just only about the benefits to the environment, but will also boost economic returns from gas production. And one might add that the project will promote regional integration by linking Nigeria gas resources with neighboring countries, as we see that if you look at the West African gas pipeline, and then if you also look at the Gulf of Guinea countries. So this is a very good regional integration, and then potentially creating more stable and interconnected energy markets, which, this particular session is about market insight. So this interconnected energy market in West Africa and the Gulf of Guinea will be well established and can lead to enhanced economic cooperation and growth across the region. So one might only just want to look at in the long-term economic implications, what this will look at as a benefit for Nigeria, but also having this infrastructure in place. Because if you recall, just trying to link this with what happened in terms of the war, the Ukraine-Russia war, and then you want to also just oppose this with the oil boom that Nigeria experienced during the regime of the former president, President Ibrahim, Babangida. You see that Nigeria got a lot of income from the oil boom as a result of the war, with Iraqi. So now with the Ukraine-Russia war, Nigeria, if this infrastructure was already in place, will have been a major alternative source of revenue for Nigeria, and to, in fact, maximize or optimize its gas market and revenue that should be accrued from that. But because of the more like delayed, establishment or delayed implementation of this infrastructure, Nigeria could not actually tap as much as possible from these. Like, you can also see that beyond just the pipeline, Nigeria is just trying to get, or is just having its train 7 of the LNG infrastructure to trade gas. Well, however, it's important for Nigeria to go into this direction because while energy financing, particularly from oil and gas, is winding down, particularly from multilateral banks or financiers, it's incumbent for Nigeria to maximize its own resources to make sure that its resources are actually being used for its own development. And I think, and I will just say that in terms of long-term economic implication, Nigeria should look at, fit for purpose strategies to ensure that the current challenges that we're experiencing with infrastructure is really minimized to the barest minimum by ensuring that a spatially explicit context is being put to ensure that every stakeholder is properly engaged in ensuring that the
I'm going to move
project
away
comes
from
to
you at
fertility.
this point in time, but I'm going to piggyback off of your remark with regards to, stakeholders being involved. You've made quite, an insightful submission in that regard. But Ms. Ihedigbo, if you can hear me, we're going to look at that from the legal context. Dr. Ibrahim spoke about, a lot of things involving the local community or the host communities where some of these things, these activities happen. And we know that, things like that have led to, skirmishes and impasse between one and the other. By that, I mean between the host communities, the IOCs, the host communities, the federal government, and all of that. So with regards to all of these, what is the legal perspective here with regards to remediation, with regards to payment, settlement, if you like, and even penalties, as Dr. Mahmoud alluded to much earlier?
So like I rightly said earlier, the PIA is a commendable piece of legislation. And I say this because it's considered the oil and gas industry for the most part in its entirety. So in respect to host communities and all that, I know that the PIA has provided that there should be a host communities development fund that oil companies, both indigenous and IoT, are supposed to comply to and provide a certain percentage of their earnings to fund host communities that their oil and gas operations may, quote unquote, negatively impact. And other than that, there's also the environmental remediation fund that the PIA provides. This is also supposed to be funded by oil and gas players in the industry. This would in turn help to, remediate the environment that has been degraded by virtue of their oil and gas operations or activities. All these and even some others that I might not be able to mention right now are very commendable steps that have been put in place by the PIA. That if it is being properly implemented in Nigeria, we would see that it would aid even help pushing the effects of oil and gas activities and then keep social unrest at bay. This is because when the host communities see that, okay, you are doing this on my piece of land or in my community, but I am getting financial benefits for what is being done. You are keeping my environment. I am not being affected. My health is good, and my environment is not exactly causing to it's not negatively impacting my standard of living because you are using the funds that are being generated from your oil and gas activities on my community to help, make life a bit bearable for me. It will help keep agitation at bay in Nigeria, and then also just, help to make sure that the whole energy transition phase goes on smoothly, and then Nigeria is not left to hang dry because they can't produce oil and gas anymore.
All right, now to top that up, let's get your view on how this particular project fits into the broader context of regional integration efforts in Africa, and also, its implication on other regional initiatives such as the AFCTA.
So first off, this project, like I had rightly said earlier, would help enhance, or what do you call it now, would help enhance regional integration and also keep Nigeria on the global map, right, to make it a global player in the energy market in general. If this project is properly implemented, we would see that more similar projects would come up. Similar projects, when I say people to drag in investments into the people would want to invest in similar projects like the Gulf of Guinea pipeline project, and then in turn, this would help, aid Nigeria's economic generation, economic what they call it, diversification and then economic growth. And just like other similar projects, this would also help Nigeria properly harness its abundant gas reserves and, basically keep Nigeria, give Nigeria an edge to even negotiate with other foreign counterparties when and if need be. And also, we should not, like Dr. Mahmoud has rightly said, the environmental and social implications of this particular project cannot be underplayed. It is properly implemented. This project basically would lead the way for other similar projects to come into play.
All right. In closing, let's finally get your thoughts, Dr. Mahmoud. Now, we know that these projects, in most cases, there's always the impact assessment done in the areas or the regions where they're being carried out, as you were. So what measures, in your view, need to be taken to mitigate potential environmental risk and also ensure sustainable development? Very quickly, if you can do that in a few seconds.
Thank you very much for this very important question. And knowing fully well that to have projects well implemented, you need to do a proper assessment. So the environmental and social impact assessment that needs to be put in place. So this is just to ensure that there is environmental and social safeguard. And then you also look at a grievance, mechanism that is going to help in mitigating whatever issues that you have, be it environmental and social. So indeed, having a very truthful and spatially explicit environmental and social impact assessment that is well thought of is a very good way, whereas you also make provision for the environmental management and plans that will affect the various components. So indeed, as a measure of sustainability in incorporated while conceiving this project, it is very important to consider the environment as a matter of an importance towards addressing sustainability issues, because don't forget that ESG, energy and social governance issues are a major thing. So the project is likely not and might not fly also, even if you don't have these documentations well thought of and implemented, because the funders will be looking at these, because it's a common tradition right now where you have maybe the World Bank or other African Development Bank or many other multilateral investors or financiers are very interested in looking at this, because they also care about their reputational risk, and they will not want to like put their hands into what will damage their reputation, whether presently or in the near future.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning, Dr. Mahmoud Ibrahim Mahmoud, Geospatial Information Technology Specialist and Environmental Sustainability Scientist. Many thanks for joining us on the program. And Ugochi Ihedigbo, thank you very much for joining us. Ms. Ihedigbo is a legal advisor in the oil and gas sector. She is a member of the Energy and Natural Resources and Corporate Finance and Securities Practices Groups of Bloomfield LP. Many thanks also for joining us on the program this morning. On Market Insight this morning, we've been talking about the Nigeria Equatorial Guinea gas pipeline agreement, and a lot has been said with regards to how we can properly and adequately harness our abundant gas reserves, which of course is towering well over 209 trillion cubic feet, as it were. And there's too much potential in there, according to our guest. They've spoken along the lines of our energy transition, as well as diversification. Dr. Mahmoud earlier, who spoke about some of the challenges, plaguing the sector, including gas flaring and its mitigation therein, as well as some other issues with regards to community involvement and stakeholder enlightenment, as he were, and also environmental and social impact assessment, as he were, which of course all of these taken care of, and if we properly harness the potential that are inherent in the sector therein, we can help ramp up our FDIs, ramp up revenue first of all, improve our GDP, and of course, attract FDIs as well as shore up energy security as far as Nigeria and of course the region is concerned. So essentially, beyond mere economics, this particular project does serve as a strategic tool for fostering deeper regional cooperation and integration. That's Market Insight this morning. But before we go, let's take a quick look at the currency markets for this week. On the official market, the Naira is trading to the US dollars at 1,515 Naira, to the pound sterling at 1,993 Naira, to the euro 1,703 Naira. On the parallel markets, the Naira is trading to the US dollars at 1,587 Naira, to the pound sterling 2,058 Naira, to the euro 1,752 Naira. That is what the currency market is looking like today. Many thanks again for joining us on today's edition of Market Insight. Until tomorrow, when we bring you another insightful conversation. Do stay tuned. I am David Chiedu. Good morning.